Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode I'm discussing Pixar's second full-length motion picture event, the 1998 computer animated movie A Bug's Life, as directed by John Lasseter. Following their debut with the phenomenally successful 1995 computer animated movie Toy Story, Pixar then followed up with a backyard adventure like no other at the time, but reeling in some of the adventure and the scope for a more homely and classically stylised story set among the undergrowth and grassy knolls of an ant colony. Led by their queen, as voiced by Phyllis Diller, and her daughter, Princess Atta, as voiced by Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is learning the kind of the ropes, as it were, and what it means to be in charge, we find that the colony of ants is under the control of a marauding band of grasshoppers, led by the unflinching Hopper, as voiced by Kevin Spacey, who coerce the ants through intimidation into supplying them with stockpiles of food. However, one ant, Flick, as voiced by Dave Foley, believes things should be different. The food for the ants gathered should be for the ants, and so ventures to the big city in search of warrior bugs, bigger bugs that will help the ants take on Hopper and his gang. Now, Flick does indeed find some of the fiercest bugs around, or at least that's what he thinks. Thanks to a bit of a communication mishap, Flick actually enlists the help of a group of circus performers who believe Flick to be a talent scout looking for them to put on a bit of a gig. So yes, needless to say, things don't go quite to plan when the misunderstanding is actually unravelled. But with Flick's plucky determination and tenacity, perhaps there just might be a chance to fool Hopper and run him out of the anthill once and for all. Just maybe. If indeed their ruse isn't discovered. So, then Pixar's second motion picture attempt takes a very different approach to the first. This time around we have more of a backyard adventure and more of a homely affair than, the more frantic and energised kind of lustre of Toy Story. Here instead we have a more relaxed vibe and a more tried and tested story of repression and rebellion. Creatively, the plot is much simpler. It takes less risks than its predecessor, and so it does have a bit more of a formulaic feel to it. Our son, first time watching, did have it pretty much pegged from the start. Now for me, it's just a wonderfully light adventure. So okay, it might not have the emotional power of some of Pixar's later entries, such as 2009's Up, 2014's Inside Out, or the pizzazz and the flair of the Toy Story series, but it certainly makes up for this with some amazing characters and, some sweet moments and one amazingly big heart. Even after all of this time, the movie still has me in stitches. It is filled with so many gratifying moments. Disney Easter eggs, and catching the sight of the biscuit tin used for the circus being Casey Jr. from the Dumbo movie, and reference to the Lion King in the big city, are a true delight. And I find it just simply an absolute joy to watch. It's sort of like a comfort blanket, Nothing too heavy, just nice, warm and friendly. Just a real lovely, friendly experience. I must admit that this film, there is, for it, there is a firm nostalgic kind of nod attached to the movie for me. That means it will always have a very special place in my heart. That being that this was the very first movie rented, I might add, and I ever did watch, on DVD, in a double bill with Lost in Space. The colours, the sound, I was in absolute awe. But do you know what? Watching the movie now, this still holds up. It has a wonderfully bright and detailed animation. A Bug's Life magnified. The backgrounds can be a little sparse, and the characters do have more of a kind of plasticized rendering feel to them, than kind of what we're now kind of used to. It's indulgent for its time, not quite as crisp as it once was, and perhaps hasn't held up quite as much as the original Toy Story has, in my opinion, but the animation is still charming and continues to stand up pretty well considering its age, you know, and proximity to the dawn of such computer-generated feature-length productions. We do have quite a terrifying villain in the form of the grasshoppers. Their size, stature, and demeanour is all focused in a way to make them seem like giants and such a formidable foe, when in reality the ants would have had them dispatched and wrapped up for dinner in no time at all. Randy Newman returns to score a soundtrack with a real kind of western feel, kind of wagons roll element to it. 30 paces at dawn, that kind of thing. And to be honest, there is this kind of gunslinging standoff between the grasshoppers and the ants that really works well with the musical themes at play. It's a bold, adventurous score which kind of sets a wider scope, perhaps, than really the film itself does. It gives the impression of a grand adventure, when really it's a brilliant backyard shenanigan. Additionally, for me, there's just something about Newman's music that kind of gives it that very distinct early Pixar flavour. Instantly, you recognise the works as his, but more so as a Pixar soundtrack, and this is absolutely no exception. Overall, for me, A Bug's Life is an early Pixar gem, full of heartwarming moments and brimming with nostalgia that's like having a warm blanket to snuggle into. The animation has been done incredibly well, and perhaps it doesn't quite stand up as well today as its predecessor does, but it's still a homely, steadfast and wonderful experience that stands up better than most do from that same time period. It's a more tried and tested story, yes, but the characters make up for any shortcomings in that department. At the end of the day, it's some fun, light and entertaining backyard shenanigans that certainly bring a heartwarming and engaging experience to life. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for my movie reviews, trailer reactions and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having you at SciFirst MovieTalk. Definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.